Right, and here we are. So, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Healing Conversations. My name is Einav Avni with Untangled Coaching, and here with me today is Kate McCauley. Hello, Kate.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Really lovely to have you here. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, I am the owner of my wellness company. My journey has a lot of different twists and turns, but I truly believe that every step of the path brought me to where I'm supposed to be today. So, I am very grateful for all of my experience. I spent 20 years as an educator in the public school system here in the United States. I was in the same district the whole time. I was fortunate to teach kindergarten through 12th grade. So, I had a lot of different experiences with children. During my teaching career, was involved in professional development, a lot of different wellness types of activities because of my background in health and physical education. So when the pandemic hit, I and all teachers, educators everywhere were quickly swept away from our buildings and said, "You are now a virtual teacher." And we needed to learn how to do that on the fly. We often said, the teachers I worked with, we were building the plane as we were flying it. So we truly were learning how to do things, as really, I guess, in life, if I think back, that happens a lot for me. So I was working incredibly hard during that time, but I also came to realize that being away from the building allowed me to be away from a lot of the toxic behaviors and environment emotions that I was feeling as an educator. I absolutely loved being an educator. I put my whole heart and soul into everything I did every single day. But there were outside factors that I could not control. The administrative lack of support, I guess I would call it. And they were allowing students to pretty much do whatever they wanted and not have serious consequences. And that caused stress for all of the people in our building, the students, the educators, those who were trying to make the environment a healthy place to learn. So probably back to 2015, I started to, really see some severe issues within the district, but it was a long journey. What else was I supposed to do? I always thought, I am a teacher. This is my purpose. But the pandemic really helped me focus on being happier and healthier. And, it was a crazy education adventure for everyone involved, teachers, students, administrators. And for my personal school district, we finished that school year as everyone did at home. And then the following school year, we ended up being virtual from our homes the entire time. My own three children had a mixture of things going on. There was hybrid learning where they were partly in, partly home. There was times where we were virtual again. My youngest son has very unique educational needs. He is dyslexic, has ADHD, and an auditory processing disorder. So he was home virtual with me, and I was teaching and running down and being his one-to-one. When the spring came, April 2021, my school district had decided, you are home through June. We will be back the following fall. Okay, I'm in the groove. I got this. My son's school said, everyone has to make a decision. Are you going to stay home? Are you going to switch to virtual? Do you want to be a hybrid? So they didn't want all the flip-flopping. Understandable. We were doing well. I said, let's keep going. Just finish the school year at home. So, said all the yeses to everyone. And then my district found out that they did not fill out paperwork correctly for state testing here in Pennsylvania. And they had a moment of freak out, I suppose we'll call it, decided that the teachers would come back to the building, but not the students. And if students decided to show up, they could take the test. I said, no, I cannot do that. You had already told me this is what we were going to do. I made decisions for my family. They thought I was bluffing, and to an extent, I might have been, because I was afraid that, am I seriously telling them that I'm not going to do this? However, I did have my health coaching certification. I did that May of 2020 because I was feeling those feelings that I was happier and healthier away from the building, but I really wasn't ready to jump in. So then, they said, well, sorry, no, you have to come. And I really did finally put my foot down. I resigned. I had been working as a health coach. So then I now fully jumped in and started my business. The saying, start before you're ready. That is very true for me. I was somewhat pushed in, or I jumped in, I guess. But I am here now and I work full time in my business. I help women through one-to-one coaching, group programs, workshops, speaking engagements, and I've published some books. I'm very busy and I'm loving it.
That's awesome. And I definitely understand and agree. Start before you're ready.
Mhm.
Actually, there is no such thing. I was never ready. So it's a good thing that you probably didn't wait. So tell me, what is it that you're doing with the women that you're working with?
Absolutely. So, first, I just want to say that I have a ton of different certifications. And when I first started this journey into health coaching and my wellness business, I was listing all of those certifications saying, well, I have this, and this. And those things are valuable and I feel they are important to have.
Mm,
However, really, what I do is I'm not an expert. I call myself a guide on the side. I guide the women I work with to tap into themselves through mindfulness so that they can be happier and healthier by building habits. They can use these habits every day at home and at work. Every journey is unique. So, whether it's a one to one coaching client or a workshop that I'm in, I meet the women where they are. I find out what is your why? Why do you want to be happier and healthier? Maybe they want to lose weight. Maybe they want to focus on nutritional choices. Maybe they want to have an attitude of gratitude or just stop with the negativity floating through their brain. Whatever that why is, we grab onto that. We always go back to that when times get tough and they feel like, oh, I can't do this or I want to quit
mm,
because, days can be hard. And then I guide them. I have a program, a signature program that guides them through. And it's a really cool transition to watch them transform. And we're always evolving. I don't ever like to say, at the end of the program, you're this wonderful butterfly. In many ways,
mm.
there's a huge transformation that happens. However, we're constantly evolving. And I find that the women I work with, once they get into this groove, they start to find new things. Maybe they started out with a gratitude journal and now they love journaling in general, and they want to write goals for that. So it's fun. I am truly now living my purpose. Someone made a comment to me when I left education. I guess it wasn't your purpose. And I really was taken back by I wasn't finna gave my heart and soul there. But what I say is my purpose is here now. And I really, truly love what I'm doing. I'm happier and healthier. I don't have that eye twitch that I was experiencing. I'm not getting stress headaches. I am working hard as a business owner, but it's a great place to be.
That sounds phenomenal, really. And of course, for me as a coach, I definitely recognize what you're saying about working with the people and seeing the transformation. And it's also resonating with me this idea of we can't actually promise what the end result is going to be like because it is so individual and
Mhm.
really depends on what the person is coming in with and what is going on there.
Absolutely. I do
Yeah.
say I don't sell a magic pill because sometimes people want that, and that's not what I do.
Yeah. And the thing, because you mentioned mindfulness, and
Mhm.
I remember taking a course once in something was to do with mindfulness, and then at some point I thought I recognized for myself that I didn't actually understand what that umbrella term means. Of course, I understand mindfulness and about
Yeah.
the breathing and the being in the now, but I also kind of question that because I think it's so used so many times, so many different concepts. So how do you explain, I guess, to the people who come to you about mindfulness? What is it? I guess the tools or that
Right.
you're
So you're
using.
so right. Mindfulness and your mindset, that's a buzzword all the
Mm,
time, everywhere. Sometimes we're bombarded with it. And I like to tell the women I work with that I'm keeping it very simple. You can take it as deep as you would like to, really. But mindfulness for me and who I work with is just being present in the moment, paying attention to all of the little things. My entire program focuses on how to use mindfulness. So we talk about mindful eating, slowing it down, savoring your food, mindful communication, mindful listening, using I statements and morning mantras and doing different things that you focus on you, the people around you, mindful moving, finding things that you love. You don't have to be a runner. You can be a runner if you want, but you need to be mindful about moving. So paying attention to what you are doing, paying attention to your surroundings, and the little things can sometimes be the big things for you. And when we slow down, I find that it's just helpful in so many ways. You can relieve stress. You are more grateful when you focus on those things, like cultivating that attitude of gratitude. You find more things to be grateful for. I use a technique actually with my clients called R.A.I.N, and I help them just calm down in the moment. I don't ever say that we always have to be happy and healthy all the time, a Pollyanna type thing. That's not what I promote in any way. In fact, I very heavily say you need to let yourself feel all of the emotions.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but as women, myself, women I've worked with, it seems to be a common thread that we try to push things away sometimes, wear all of the hats, do all of the jobs that we need to do, the paid positions and the non-paid, maybe in your household if you have a family and children, and pretend like everything is great. And we just, don't want to feel some of those emotions of guilt and sadness and anxiety. So that technique
Mm.
R.A.I.N is something with mindfulness that I help my clients use.
Mm. Yeah, so I guess the title of the talk is really about the rain, or in some way about rain. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure.
Um, but I really also like, before we get there,
Yep.
I really like what you said about what you mentioned about the purpose, because I mean, I'm jumping back quite a bit, but this understanding that actually maybe we didn't find our purpose, and maybe that there is something else, some, I don't know if to say happiness or some calmness that will come when we do find our purpose. It's something that sometimes scares people, right? Because I know a lot of the time, I have some clients that say, I've come to this age, I'm, 30, 40, 50, whatever, and I don't know what my purpose is, and I don't know the meaning of my life, and where is it that I'm aiming. And actually, sometimes it is also with the, process of elimination, that actually where I am right now is, if I have the questions, it's probably not that. And let's start exploring. So it's really bringing the awareness that yes, you may be in one place, but it's also about the curiosity about what is coming and what are the possibilities when we let go of the expectations and the ego, really.
Absolutely. I love that. Letting go of the expectations. That's exactly what you need to do. All of the shoulds and the supposed tos and the guilt you feel, the fear, once you can get past and push past that, you can start to be open to what your purpose is. Because I know personally, it's scary to think what I've always been doing isn't what I'm supposed to be doing, or I don't feel this anymore. I'm not loving what I'm doing. I was showing up as an educator, putting on a happy face and pretending like things were good in front of the students, but they clearly weren't. When my
Mm,
eye was twitching at work and I was having headaches and, driving home in silence. And like you said, starting to question, can I keep doing this? Why am I doing this? But then I have to think sometimes how old I am. I'm about to be 44. So I was, in my 40s, and that's scary to think I spent 20 years as an educator and now I'm going to resign.
mm,
Who am I to think that? There's all these worries too about what will the neighbors think? What will the other teachers think? There's all these, my family, once you tell people this is what you're doing, there was some strange comments, but I was always, that's great. Good job. Go for it. It was my own fear, like you just said, that was holding me back. And although I say I wish I had done this sooner sometimes, I just think that the universe aligned and,
mm.
it might be tough. I call it the messy middle, but you really do have to travel through that to get to your purpose and where you're supposed to be.
but this is, I think this is a wisdom that you can only have once you've been through it once at least, and
Mm-hmm.
you can recognize really that the fears are the ones that are holding you back. And actually, when you get set on that journey and you say, I know it's scary and I know I have no idea where I'm headed, but I trust that it will work out, that's
Yes,
when you can continue. Otherwise, so often what happens, right? We get bumped into the walls of the comfort zone, and we stay exactly where we are, which is, fair enough, because it is scary to do something that we don't know. But
absolutely.
yeah, but you said that at the very beginning, right? That you trust that all of your life experiences brought you to where you are right now.
Yes. And I truly think that that is, it helps me be successful now because all of those experiences I am incredibly grateful for. I had told you I was building the plane as I fly it, teaching virtually. And now here I am chatting with you. 3 years ago, I would have never thought that I'm jumping on Zoom calls and working with women all over the world. But here I am. And that at the time when I thought I cannot handle this as an educator, I put my big girl pants on and I just said, I am going to do this. I need to do this. And those skills I didn't know at the time were leading me to this path where now it just is, it's normal for me. Okay, you want to hop on a Zoom? Sounds good. Should we go into StreamYard and chat? Here I am. And in some ways, when I slow down myself and be mindful, it's amazing how
Mm.
quickly life has changed for me. And I am very grateful for all of the experiences, the good, bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, exactly. Because really, what is good or bad or ugly, right? It's just our mindset for that moment.
Yes,
But when we are able to take a step back and look at it, we say, "Oh, okay, now I understand why it happened, why it had to happen in that way." We become cleverer, in retrospect.
absolutely.
Yeah, to me, what comes up for me when I'm thinking about what you just said, definitely recognize this bit about women and always putting ourselves at the back of the queue, always putting on brave face, always having all of these different hats and stuff like that. So much so that sometimes when it comes to that moment where you are, on your own with yourself, you no longer have any idea what it is that you went to do, to feel, to think, to fear, to not fear. And so the easiest thing is just to put the next foot forward and just continue as you are.
Right.
So so I like what you're saying, that actually here you are and you're helping them to see that actually
Hmm.
there is a bigger picture here. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be that way.
I'm holding that mirror up because those answers really are within them and they just need some guidance. It does take some work to dig deep sometimes, and it's worth it because you deserve that, even though, as you're saying, it's hard sometimes to put the next foot forward. Once you do, you can keep going and it's pretty powerful. And then it's a ripple effect into all areas of your life. When you show up as the best you, everyone is receiving that and they are better for it. I am a better mother. I am a better wife. I am a better individual friend. It can go on and on when I put myself on the to-do list. It's not selfish, it is necessary. And that is a block sometimes that women and myself had to travel through, that we, as a coach, I have to say, no, it's okay. Change your words. Let's change the story because I hear you saying, but the family unit, but you're not talking about yourself in there. You're worried about everyone else. And then once they realize that, they have an aha moment and they'll say to me, Kate, for so long, I haven't even been thinking about myself, but I thought I was.
Mhm.
And now that I am, everybody, the kids, there's less explosions. I'm not screaming, it's not always sunshine and rainbows, but it's better. It's a contentment. It's genuinely feeling happy.
I love it. I really love it. Really recognizing this also from some of my clients about this idea that it's actually breaking down the words that we're using, right? Like you
Mhm.
say, family unit. Yes, are you in that family unit, or is it really everyone apart from you? And when you recognize this, that changes everything. And sometimes, the just a small reframe brings all of the all of the change, all of the difference in how we
Yes, I would
behave.
agree. And like you said, it can be a small change. Some women are afraid, which to me sounds funny now because I've journeyed through it, but then I think I get it. I get why you're
Mm.
afraid to have that first call and then like just to make a change. We don't want to admit something wasn't working. So, it's hard to say I need to do this now. With guidance and, hard work, you can push through it and it's work. Like you said, a small reframe can make a
Yeah,
huge
but I
difference.
think, but I understand that because I think sometimes it's like when you're operating from that mindset of basically everything is so fragile, because if you just take wrong move,
Mhm.
even if it's meaning to start talking to someone about how you're coping, it's like the fear that there's going to be a dam that you will not be able to stop. And that fear sometimes really, it's okay, I'll just keep going. I'll just keep putting one foot after the next,
Yeah.
and not deal with it. So I really understand how easy it is. And I think sometimes, yes, you get to that stage when you say, "Do you know what? Life is not about suffering and pain all the time. There's got to be something that I can do differently."
Yes. Absolutely. And you deserve that. Anyone who's
And
listening in your group, either now or on the replay, you deserve that. So, go and get it, grab it, hold
yeah,
on to it.
and exactly. So maybe tell us a little bit about the R.A.I.N method,
Sure.
and what
Sure.
is it?
So R.A.I.N technique, I cannot take credit for it. There is a woman named Tara Brock who is very much known in the mindfulness community, and she, I guess, created it. So I always like to say this is not Kate McCauley's thing because give credit where credit is due. But it is an acronym, and it's a mindfulness tool. My clients use this. I tell people about it in workshops. It's not something that is going to take you 3 hours to do. You could really do this in 60 to 90 seconds very quickly. Really, this is a technique that you would use when you are feeling something either small or moderately stressful in your life. This is not for maybe some type of huge situation, but I'll explain the acronym and then I can give you an example. So R stands for recognize, and I'll go through all of them and I'll get a little deeper. R for recognize, A for allow, I for investigate with kindness. Don't forget that part. N for nurture. So let's go a little bit deeper. R for recognize. When you are dealing with a situation, you are starting to say to yourself, all right, what is this that is happening? And you can just simply do something called noting where and you don't have to write it down. You could if you wanted to, but noting is just, okay, I'm feeling anxiety. I'm feeling sadness. I'm feeling overwhelmed, stressed, whatever it is that you are recognizing. Okay, this is what's happening here. And it might not be directly with the situation, but it's, you can say, okay, this is what this is. And then you're just allowing it in the second stage. You quickly move to that. You don't hang out there in the recognize and, try to dig deep. You just let it be and you allow it in that second stage. And that really means what we were talking about before. You're not trying to push everything down and ignore all of it because then that's when the stress builds up and you sometimes explode usually on the people you love. You're holding it in with all those other people in your world. And then you come home and you know, you can't do that. You have to let yourself feel the emotion. This doesn't mean that you sit down and start, full on meditation at work and, you're crying in a situation, you can let yourself feel it. You can cry if you're in a position where you need to, but you're just saying, okay, I'm allowing myself, I'm feeling overwhelmed. You move to investigation. Investigation is when you dig a little bit deeper. And remember, I'm explaining it long, but this is moving fast when you're doing it. So you investigate almost like a best friend outside of the situation, walking around it, or a detective looking in with kindness. You're not saying, oh, here I am again, getting judgy. And, I can't believe I did this again, or the mom guilt, you're not doing that to yourself. You're just saying, okay, I'm sad about this. this situation triggers me to feel anxiety, because, and, you're investigating a little bit deeper there. And then the last part, nurture. This is really where you just put your hand over your heart. Maybe some people say, give yourself a hug and just say, I love you. I see you. It's okay. You're not trying to solve the problem, but this is a tool to calm yourself down and be mindful. I used it recently. I'll give you an example. The sink here was filling up. All right. It was slowly draining. My husband is an expert in this area. He deals with pipes. He builds big buildings, so when he came home from work, I am very grateful to work from home. But those hats I was talking about, I will say, let me try to squeeze the dishes in sometimes. And I wish I did it sometimes. But in some ways, I'm like, this is great. I could do the dishes when I have a couple minutes here at home. So I'm doing the dishes. The sink was slowly draining. I noticed it. I said something to him that evening. The sink doesn't seem to be draining like it normally does. Okay. We go on our day. Everything's fine with the sink. The next day comes, and there was some dishes in the sink from the morning. I said, middle of the day, let me try to do this. Well, the sink now isn't draining at all. And I feel myself getting crazy. I had so many things going on that day. My book was busy, full. That is wonderful, but also can be stressful. So I didn't have time for this sink situation. And I felt myself, I'm going to explode. This is crazy. I told him yesterday, I'm talking to myself. I'm here at home working alone. And I am feeling myself, start to feel all those emotions. And that's when R.A.I.N can come in. I just pull it back a second and I recognize, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed today. I have a lot going on. I am annoyed that he didn't take care of the sink. But I didn't even really express how much the sink was. I was like, well, the sink's, so I could ruin his day. I could ruin my day. I could let this spiral out of control. And my RAS, which I can talk about after R.A.I.N, the reticular activating system wants to say, what do we do in this situation here? And for me, I try to use R.A.I.N now because I tell everyone else to use it. Let's use it myself. And I just allowed myself to feel those feelings. I investigated, why am I getting so crazy about the sink? This is not the end of the world, but it's because of all the other things I had going on. And then I nurture and say, okay, it's okay to be annoyed by this. It's okay to be stressed. Now, what are we going to do with the deal with the sink? And then, we moved on, and my life didn't end. I dealt with the sink. I dumped some of the water out. I did actually have some time there that I didn't even realize I had. And I just took a breath. And this is something that you can use, when you feel like I'm so stressed in this conversation. I have a client who tells her kids, I need to make it rain. And she walks away, she takes a breath, and she just spends, I think she says it takes her like 30 seconds just to go through it. And then she puts her hand on her heart and she walks back, and they, okay, mom.
Yeah, go and do what you need to do.
And I think they know she's very passionate. If she happens to ever see this, you know who you are, and I love her. But she says, if not, mom sets the tone here, and I am going to freak out on everyone. And then it's going to spiral into a bigger thing. So I just need to make it rain. So it takes some work, because you have to, focus on R.A.I.N. But once you start doing it, it becomes a habit. That's what I was talking about with the reticular activating system. You can retrain your brain that when you're in a stressful situation, think of something that is small to moderately stressful for you, that something happens. Maybe it happens often, or it was a one-time thing. Think about how you could use R.A.I.N next time, because it can be very powerful and it's very quick. You do not have to sit with it for 3 hours. As I said, you can just move through it and use it as a tool. I tell my clients, make it rain, or pull R.A.I.N out of your toolbox, because you need to calm your body down. And it teaches that woman I talked about, who's my client, who she's always telling everyone about it. It teaches the people you are with, her children in particular, in that situation, how to handle stress and manage stress, because we set examples for others around us, how they should treat us, how they should behave. So it's helpful for everyone.
I like this R.A.I.N a lot, actually. And I'm thinking a lot of the time, I in conversations, I know that people, they feel the feeling and they stay with the feeling, and they keep blah, blah, blah. They keep hold of the feeling. They don't,
Like, they
they don't.
become it. They become it sometimes, like you're saying, they hold on to
Exactly,
it, and this helps
exactly.
you not become. Most of those feelings can move through in 90 seconds, but you could hold on to it all day.
Exactly, because we I think this is also about the reframing, right? Because when we feel the emotion, it's like, okay, do I need to keep hold of it and go through it and all of that, or do I need to say, actually, what is going on here? And I like what you say, when you recognize actually that the emotion maybe comes from the sink, but actually it's obviously got nothing to do with the sink. It's just really taking a step back and opening it up a little bit to understand actually what is going on. And yeah, just it's a completely different approach and mindset. I really, I recognize it, and I really like that.
Start using it. Give it to everyone you know. I always say, share it with everyone, because I really do think that, like you said, mindfulness can be all over the place and we hear about it a lot, but I think you could use little tools to be mindful that can really shift your life and help you become happier, healthier. You deserve that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think it is very interesting, because also, I like to say really that our emotions, they're like waves, right? They come onto the shore and they're going to come back. You don't have to grab hold of it and take it home to have tea with. It's like, just leave
Exactly.
it where it is. I know for myself, sometimes I recognize emotions in my body, right? Maybe most of us do, but I can come up when I think, actually, what is going on? All of a sudden, I feel that I'm in that emotion,
Right.
and then it's really about thinking, actually, how come? What happened? Where did it come from? And sometimes when I say, okay, I had that conversation, and I recognize that someone said something that triggered me, and I just ignored it. Actually, I didn't walk through it, and
Yeah.
now that I recognize it, I say, okay, so it's just that. And then it's really the ability to say, okay, now that I brought it to the table and it's in my conscious awareness, I can figure out what it is, and how to move forward from that. Um, but I think awareness is really the biggest key for most for most transformation.
Absolutely. I would agree. I would agree. So I hope everyone listening uses it. Share it with everyone you love.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. But I want to know. So you mentioned before that you have one-on-one coaching or guidance, but you also have the group setups that you have. Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So I have accountability groups for women. So within my Danu group on Facebook, I have one of these. I run accountability groups where we just focus on being happier and healthier, focusing on moving our body. We just did a challenge with affirmation in the morning, water, drinking. We were doing half our body weight in ounces and then moving every single day. So sometimes it's a challenge like that within the group. Sometimes it's just checking in with each other and having that tribe of women to build each other up. So that's what I do within a small group. That's a free accountability group, but I also do group coaching with women where, very similar to conversations like this, we talk about where they are, what they want to do. And they always have a takeaway tip when I work with them so that they can start putting it into their everyday life, because it's all good and great to talk about these things, but you need to implement and create habits so that you can, feel those feelings of, okay, I can handle this. I can be less stressed.
Yeah, I think it's the group part. I think it's so interesting because sometimes, right, when we hear from other people and their experiences and how they've dealt with it, and it's giving us a whole new perspective of something, and then we think, actually, if this person could do it, I probably can too. And
Yeah,
so it gives you a whole lot, an inspiration to move forward in a
definitely. It's
way.
empowering.
Yeah. And so tell me, you mentioned before that you were the educator, but you already took some courses and stuff and certificates.
Yes.
What guided you to that area out of all of them?
For health coaching, you mean?
Mm.
Well, I had a background in kinesiology. I have a degree in kinesiology. I have a master's in education. So I've always loved helping people and teaching them. And I was drawn to health coaching because I was seeing it in different places. Other people were talking about it, I guess, on social media. And I thought, I'm kind of doing that to a degree within small groups that I was working with just women I know personally. And then I looked into it deeper and I said, I'm really doing this as an educator. I was doing a lot of professional development for the teachers. I like to call it being voluntold. The district was saying, you're going to run this, you're going to do this. And I did a lot of mindfulness with my students. And I just found that it was useful for them to calm down. The district I worked in was very tough in many ways, that the kids brought a lot of baggage and trauma with them that, they had no control of. Sadly, this was just imposed on them and where they live, the community that they were growing up in. So the mindfulness was a new concept in some ways in education, but I was, taking courses and different things. So then I decided I'm going to get certified as a health coach when I was home during the pandemic. And let's see where this goes, because people were saying to me, you don't have to get certified. I wanted to do it because the educator in me, I just found that the more I learn, I'm a lifelong learner. And I think that it's important to say to the women I work with, and as clients, as coaches, workshops, when I'm a speaker at engagements, that I am certified. I have a background in this. I know what I'm talking about. I don't claim to be a guru or an expert, but I have the foundation. I have the certification. And then I also did that for my business. I became a certified woman-owned business to say, hey, I'm a legit company, because there are some people and places out there that claim to be something, and you have to sort through those things sometimes. I do anyway. So I wanted to say, I did all of this crazy stuff to show you that I'm legit. I'm really, doing the work, because as we said, it takes a lot for someone to jump in and work with someone on themselves. And I think they deserve to have somebody who is, really doing it and not just showing up on Instagram like, look at me, so, and some people, maybe that works for them. But for me, that is not the path I decided to take.
Yeah. And tell me, so just before we wrap up, I guess, what is one advice or something that you can share for either the women in the group, or maybe the men with the women, or maybe the women and the kids?
Sure.
What is something that you can share that people can take away, apart from the R.A.I.N, of course, which is a wonderful method? What else can you give them so that
A
they can
little
take
tip
away?
for them to use. Sure.
Yes,
So I
exactly.
think an easy one is to stack a habit. I'm actually going to give you two. You get two here. So stacking a habit, if you want to start doing something to be more mindful, to be happier and healthier, find something that you already do. A habit that you already do. Maybe it is brushing your teeth every morning. Maybe it is when the coffee is brewing. Something that you do every day. Your brain, that reticular activating system, tells you, you might not realize it, but it's telling you, we do this every day. So whatever that is, stack a habit, meaning that you have that habit that you're thinking of, put another habit with it. And I'm going to give you a habit to do, because I think this is an easy one. So if you're listening, this can be for kids, this can be women, men, whoever. Start writing down 3 things that you are grateful for every day. You can do it in a gratitude journal. You can do it in a notebook that, costs $2 from a store. It doesn't have to be fancy. You could do it in your phone, in your notes. You need to start writing down 3 things that you are grateful for. Now, if you choose to do that with getting up in the morning, right before you go brush your teeth, you stack that habit, put that journal or paper or wherever you write it down, and a pen right next to the bed before you get up. I write my journal, I brush my teeth, or I brush my teeth, then I come in here and write in my journal. I have a client who does it with our coffee. That's where I came up with that idea. She has a journal right next to the coffee pot. She just slides it in, and she has the pen there, and she writes as the coffee is brewing. Oh, I'm really giving you 3. Get ready. Here's another one. I call it be better behaviors. Squeezing stuff in for those everyday moments like the coffee. Instead of just standing there, she's writing. Some people could do be better behaviors while the coffee is brewing. Do some squats. Throw in a couple calf raises, that's little movement where it doesn't have to be a big thing throughout your whole day. So 3 things there that I'm giving you. You got 3 for one answer there. So stack a habit, start writing down your gratitude, and you're going to find that you are going to find more and more things you're grateful for once you start focusing on that. And then 3, get some be better behaviors in there where you're standing around, waiting for things. You pop something in the toaster oven, do something while, take a little walk or do something in the house. You don't have to go out on an adventure. Do something where you can have be better behaviors. Then you will start to feel this sense of achievement with those things. Like, look at me, I squeezed my gratitude journal in right here. Oh, I just did 5 squats while the coffee was brewing, and you have this achievement that helps you keep going, and then you can look back on those things and say, all right, maybe I didn't get my full workout in today because it was busy or we had a family party or whatever came up. But at least I did this while the coffee was brewing, something like that. So I hope they could take those tips and use them.
I love them. And I think the habit stacking one is definitely one that I think I particularly like. It's because it's so easy, right? You're already doing something. Just add another thing onto
And
it.
your brain will, once you start doing it for a little while, there's a lot of research on how long it takes to build a habit because sometimes a situation can cause a habit to happen quickly, a traumatic situation sometimes. But other times it can take, it's unique for people. There's a lot of studies on it. But once you start doing it over and over, your brain will say, this is what you do. And you might forget one day to write in the gratitude journal in the morning, and then your brain will say, "Did I write in the gratitude journal?"
Yeah.
And then you'll go up there and jot 3 things down.
Yeah. As you lie in bed, ready to go to sleep.
Yeah, sometimes that happens. So, and that's okay. Be kind to yourself. You
Exactly.
can
Be
go
kind.
back and say, "It's okay. I had all these days. It's all right that I missed this morning."
Yes, I think that's really important message to to finish with. Be kind to yourself because what you know right now is not what you knew earlier. So allow yourself the journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that. Great. Well, here we are at the end of our conversation, Kate. That's been delightful. I really enjoyed talking with you and learning about all these things that you do with your clients and the incredible ripple that you bring into the world.
Thank you. I have much gratitude for allowing me to come. You were in my gratitude journal this morning. I wrote down internet access so that I could speak with you in your group. So thank you for having me here. I always love talking about it. It really is, my passion. I feel myself getting excited when I talk about it. So
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely. No, thank you very much. And for anyone watching the replay or the live or whatever, so we're going to add the links for your socials and your groups and everything so people can join and reach out if they so wish. And
Thank
also, of course, it will be available later on in the YouTube. So um, everyone have the ability to stay connected and all of that.
I love it. I love it. And be sure to tell me if you happen to come over to Instagram and see me popping some positivity there. I saw it on Untangled Coaching, because if I get that connection, I say, oh, okay, well, if you like her, do you follow, then we have a good vibe, even if you're just commenting on things, I love to know where the connections happen because it, kind of aligns. I'm like, okay, I get it. I know your vibe.
Yeah, yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anyone watching Kate on Instagram, say hi.
Or anywhere,
Yeah,
Facebook, anywhere, wherever you are.
mention where you saw it. Absolutely. Great. Well, thank you so much again, Kate. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.